Await and timers are some of the most powerful tools in Godot. When everything seems right but still isn't working, await might save you. So let's dive into Godot. I have a scene here with a script attached to it, and I'm gonna select it and add a timer. And timers are super useful. If there was a tier list, I would put them in S tier, because you can select how long you wanna wait. So if I wanna wait 5 seconds, I just input 5 seconds on the wait time. And then you can also enable one shot. It stops the timer when it reaches the end. Otherwise it will restart. And then we have auto start. This makes the timer start as soon as it enters the tree. But you can also start it whenever you want through your code. And those are the most important settings for the timer. And then you can also change the process callback from idle to physics if you want to. It will make the timer behave a little bit differently. The tooltip says that the idle one is for rendered frames and the process one is for the process frames. And if I run a small experiment here between a timer set to idle and one set to physics, and if I pause the game, we will see a small difference between the two, but it's not very noticeable. And if, for example, you want to start the timer in the ready function of your game, you can do func ready, and then you can just drag in the timer and do dot start. And now this will start the timer. I'm gonna disable auto start since we're starting it manually. Nothing will happen when it finishes. So if we want something to happen when it's finished, we can go into node and we have signals and we want to connect a signal, and that's the timeout signal. You can double click on it or click on it once and hit connect, and then connect it to the node with the script attached to it, and then hit connect. And here we could print something, so print, and when it finishes we can just say Godot. And if I run this now, after 5 seconds it should print in the debug Godot. We got one Godot, and since it's not set to one shot, it restarts. So I'm getting a Godot every 5 seconds. But this is really useful for anything if you want to count the time and a lot more. Maybe you want to deal damage every 1 second or 2 seconds. It's very useful. And some people like creating the timers through code. And here we could do like get tree, and then we can do create timer, and then we give it a time. So let's say 5 seconds for this one as well. And then we can do dot timeout, because that's what we're interested in. And then we have to wait for this to finish. So we do await at the beginning, and then after this finishes, and we can print done. So this will wait for the timer that we create on 5 seconds for it to time out. If I run this now, I should get both a Godot and a done after 5 seconds. And I got both. Timers that you create through code are, I guess, minimal, that you don't have to use the node, but you can't stop the timer. And I feel like you have more control with a node, and it also declutters your code. Here was one example of how to use the await. Some other useful ways await is useful is with an animation player. So if I add an animation player to my scene, and let's make a new animation, and in this animation maybe I want to move this one, this label. So let's get its layout, transform and position, and key it. And I'm gonna move it to the middle here, move it to here and key. And I can do the same in the ready function. So I can drag in the animation player and do dot play, and then we want to play the new animation. Then we can drag it in again and do dot animation underscore finished, and we can await this. So when it finishes, it will continue running the code. So let's do print, and I'm just gonna call this animation finished. And after 1 second, it will print animation finished. It will first wait for the 5 seconds for the timer that we made, and then play the animation, and then animation finished. So that's how you do that, since it runs the code from top to bottom. So it first makes this timer and waits for it to finish, and when it finishes, it will continue and play the animation, wait for the animation to finish, and then print animation finished. A lot of finish. And as the meme mentioned, some people don't know about this. Sometimes you have things depending on other things to happen, and even though everything is right, it still isn't working. And something that has helped me a lot of times is just doing await, get tree, and then process frame. This will wait 1 frame. This is pretty similar to the one where he just did 0.1. A process frame is a lot less than 0.1, and you can't really set timers that are reliable if they are less than 0.05, since if I select the timer and reduce the time, I will get a warning telling me that it's not accurate if I use something less than 0.05. I can show it in use in another project to get an overview of the use cases. So let's open up a project I'm working on. So for example, this game that I'm working on, I have to await a process frame in the ready function, or else it won't know what type it was set to in the script that added it. So if I were to disable it and run my game, and you would see that it drops the loot, but it doesn't have time to know what type of loot it is, so I can't see it. If I walk away, you can see I don't get any experience, but if I walk near, I still get the experience. So the loot is there, but I can't see it, because it doesn't have time to know what type it was set to. So if I wait here and run my game again, it will now have time to know what type it was set to when it was added. And now I see the loot. It was still there before, so you may run into similar issues in the future, and this may come in handy if something like that happens. Thanks for watching, and shout out to my Ko-Fi members. For source code, custom videos or coaching, check out my Ko-Fi, and I'll see you in the next one.